Now that we have our truck following the spline that we made, let's look at how we can use the level blueprint to add more specific functionality to it. For example, I want this truck to come to a stop at the stop sign, wait a moment, and then move along. So to begin, let's start by opening up the level blueprint. Head up here to the toolbar, click on this drop down, and click on the button that says Open Level Blueprint. Now, right away, we're going to see that it looks much like a typical class blueprint with a little bit modified. There's no components section because essentially that is your entire scene. So let's head back to the scene and create our own component that will act as a trigger volume for this. So if you head to the modes section and down to volumes, you'll see that there's a wide variety of different types of volumes. Some of them are really specific that Unreal has provided for you. Others are very generic. In our case, we're going to head to the very bottom to trigger volume and just drag that out onto the scene. Essentially what I want is when this truck actor overlaps this trigger volume, we want it to trigger a command in the level blueprint. So let's start by making this a little bit bigger just so that it definitely hits our trigger volume. And then with this still selected, we head over to the level blueprint and right-click in the empty space of the graph. Now you'll notice that right away it already is asking to create a reference to the trigger volume. That's one of the nice things about the level blueprint is it's context sensitive, so any asset that you have selected in your scene, it will automatically be relevant and kind of promoted to the top of all of your possible actions. So what we want is to add an event for this trigger volume, and specifically a collision event. Now this actor begin overlap is the one that we want, so just click that. Now essentially what this is going to do is it will fire this execution pin every time anything overlaps it, a truck or any other asset in the scene. So what we want to do is specify to only function when the truck drives through it. So we'll begin by dragging off of this other actor, which is essentially whatever collides with the overlapped actor of that volume. Just drag off of that and type cast to truck. You'll notice you get some options. There's the truck path that we made, that spline, but we want this truck dynamic. Now, essentially this cast node, what it's doing is this is a filter. So any actor that overlaps this trigger volume will trigger a fire, but only the truck dynamic blueprint that touches this will actually make it past this node. Now, our next step is going to be essentially ensuring that it only fires this slow down function one time. We don't want the truck to try to slow down multiple times within the same trigger volume. So just drag off the execution chain and type do once. And then finally, from completed, type stop truck. Now, this only exists because before this scene, we've created a function for starting and stopping. So let me drill into that and just show you what's going on behind the scenes. So if you double-click this function, it'll bring you to what looks like the event graph, but really it's a separate graph. And essentially, you can have as many of these graphs as you want per the number of functions you have. So essentially what this is an input for stopping the truck. And this is our execution chain that will be fired. This is our object. In this case, we filtered it down to the dynamic truck blueprint, remember? So after it gets through this cast, it filters to the truck dynamic, and then it sets a variable within that truck for is slowing down. And it sets that to true, and then sets another variable for is speeding up to false, because it can't speed up at the same time as it's slowing down. And essentially the start truck is the same thing but in reverse. So it says is slowing down is false and is speeding up is true. Let's just compile since we made some changes. Now if we head back to the event graph, you'll see that it's just running that simple function stop truck, And then we'll want to add in a delay. And we can set this to whatever we want. I'm just going to set it to 2 seconds. And then when it's completed, I want to call the function start truck. And I'll drag in this as truck dynamic node to both of those so that it knows which of those objects it is. And then hit compile. So now in our scene, the truck should drive up to this, cross through, slow down, wait a moment, and then start back up. Look at that. So in a nutshell, that's how you can use the level blueprint to add in new functionality on top of existing blueprints.